There is a silence around you that has not been empty, only unfinished. What you believed was distance has been something far more delicate than that. Someone has been carrying words in their heart they did not know how to release, feelings they tried to hide beneath caution, beneath timing, beneath the fear of changing everything between you forever. And yet the truth has a strange way of rising when it can no longer remain buried. Listen carefully. Because the quiet between you is not what it seems. It is the sound of a heart preparing itself for honesty. They have replayed your name in moments you never witnessed. In crowded rooms, in lonely nights, in ordinary hours when your memory arrived without warning and refused to leave. They told themselves to stay composed, to remain distant, to pretend what they felt would eventually fade if they ignored it long enough. But some connections do not disappear simply because they are denied. Some feelings grow stronger in silence. And theirs has. Much stronger than you know. There is something changing inside them now, something they can no longer control. The walls they built to contain their emotions are beginning to crack, not because they are weak, but because what they feel for you has become heavier than the fear of revealing it. They are reaching a point where pretending means losing you, and that thought unsettles them more than confession ever could. That is why the energy around you feels different lately. Why your heart has sensed movement before your eyes could confirm it. Why part of you has felt that something important is approaching, even if you could not explain why. And what they are preparing to say is not small. It is not casual. It is not the kind of confession spoken without trembling. Because when they finally break their silence, it will not be with half-truths or vague affection. It will be with honesty they have kept locked away for longer than you realize. They are not preparing to tell you they merely care. They are preparing to tell you that somewhere along the way, caring became longing. Longing became attachment. And attachment became something they could no longer name without calling it love. Don't skip, because this next part matters more than you think. The reason they waited was never because their feelings were uncertain. It was because they knew that once those words were spoken, nothing between you could ever return to what it was before. A confession like this changes the atmosphere forever. It shifts every past conversation into a new meaning. It reveals that every glance held more than friendship, every hesitation hid emotion, every strange moment of tension between you carried unspoken truth beneath it. They understand that once they say it, you will see everything differently. And still, they are getting ready to say it anyway. You may have wondered why they pulled close only to become distant again. Why they gave signs, then retreated. Why their actions sometimes felt like a contradiction. It was not confusion. It was restraint. They were fighting feelings that had already outgrown their control. Fighting the urge to reveal what their heart had decided long before their mind gave permission. But now, restraint is losing. Very soon, they will stop speaking in hints. They will stop hiding behind small gestures and careful words. They will come forward with a truth that has been building in silence for far too long. And when that moment arrives, what they reveal may explain everything you have felt but could never fully understand. Because their confession will not begin with the present, it will begin with the admission that they have loved you longer than they ever let you see. Stay till the end, because this is only the beginning of what is unfolding. The confession itself will not happen in the way you expect. Not in some perfect rehearsed moment, not in a way that looks polished or planned. It may come through trembling honesty, through emotion they can no longer contain, through a moment where their heart finally outruns their fear. And when it happens, you will hear something in their voice that cannot be faked, the sound of someone risking everything because losing their silence matters less than losing you. But before they speak, one final realization must strike them. One final inner battle must be won. Because there is still a secret they have not yet admitted even to themselves, and when they do, it will push them toward you faster than ever before. That moment is closer than you think. What they have not told you yet, what they may barely understand themselves, is that this confession is no longer just about love. It is about regret. Because somewhere deep inside them, a realization has begun to haunt their quietest moments. They may have waited too long. They see how life keeps moving, how timing keeps shifting, how opportunities disappear when hearts remain silent for too long, and for the first time, they are afraid that if they do not speak now, they may watch someone else claim the place they have secretly dreamed of holding in your life. That fear has awakened something urgent within them. Not panic, but clarity. A kind of emotional certainty that changes a person forever. And once someone reaches that point, hesitation begins to die. They have started replaying every memory between you through a different lens now. Moments they once brushed off suddenly feel significant. Conversations that seemed ordinary now echo in their mind with hidden meaning. Even the smallest things, your smile, your attention, the way you once looked at them without realizing it, have become evidence to them that perhaps this connection was never one-sided after all. They are beginning to wonder if you felt it too. If beneath your own calm exterior, there was something unspoken waiting there as well. That question is becoming impossible for them to ignore. And that is why their silence is changing. It no longer feels like distance. It feels like pressure building before a storm finally breaks. Not a storm of chaos, but of truth. The kind that rearranges everything in one conversation. The kind that makes two people stop pretending there was never something deeper here. They are reaching the moment where even their pride cannot protect them anymore. Because love kept hidden too long starts to ache. It becomes heavier than the risk of rejection. Heavier than embarrassment. Heavier than uncertainty. And they are tired of carrying it alone. There is another truth you need to understand. This confession has been rehearsed in their mind more times than you could imagine. They have imagined how they will begin. They have imagined your reaction. They have imagined what could happen if you turn toward them, and what could happen if you do not. Still, despite every fear, they keep returning to the same conclusion: some feelings become too sacred to remain unspoken. Some people become too important to lose through silence. That person is you. Don't skip. Because the next part changes everything. When they finally speak, it may begin more softly than expected. Not with dramatic words, but with honesty that feels almost fragile. They may first admit how much you matter to them. How different you have always felt. How no one else has ever reached them in the way you did. But beneath those careful beginnings lies the real confession they have been holding back, the one that has made their heart race for weeks, perhaps months. The truth that what they feel is no passing attraction, no temporary fascination, no simple admiration. It is love that grew quietly, steadily, and without permission until it became impossible to deny. And when they reveal that, when the full weight of their feelings finally reaches you, you may realize this was never sudden at all. It was simply hidden. Hidden behind timing. Hidden behind fear. Hidden behind the masks people wear when they care too much to risk being vulnerable. But the most powerful part has not happened yet. Because after they confess, after the silence breaks and the truth finally enters the open, they will reveal the one reason they could not keep it inside any longer. The reason this moment had to happen now and not later. And when you hear that reason, your heart may understand why everything between you has been building toward this all along. To be continued. The reason they can no longer hold it in is because something shifted inside them the moment they realized that loving you quietly was no longer enough. Admiring you from a distance, hoping in silence, wondering what might happen someday, none of it satisfies them anymore. They have reached the point where imagination hurts more than truth. Because every time they picture a future without ever telling you how they feel, it leaves them with the same unbearable thought. What if the greatest connection of their life was lost simply because they were too afraid to speak? That question has followed them everywhere. It finds them in still moments when no one else is around. It interrupts their routines. It appears in the middle of ordinary days like a whisper they cannot silence. And the answer never changes. They would regret losing you far more than they would regret being vulnerable. That realization has transformed everything. Because once someone understands that regret would hurt more than rejection, they stop running from honesty. And so now, they are gathering courage in ways you cannot yet see. Quietly preparing their heart for the most vulnerable conversation they may have ever had. Not because they suddenly became fearless, but because you have become worth more than their fear. Stay with this, because something important is waiting for you. When they confess, they will not simply tell you that they love you. They will tell you when it began. The moment they first noticed something different about you. The first time your presence lingered in their mind longer than it should have. The day they understood that what they felt was no ordinary attachment. They have carried that memory like a secret treasure, replaying it privately while pretending nothing had changed. And when they share it with you, it will reveal that this love did not appear overnight. It was growing long before you ever suspected it. They may confess how they tried to move on. How they attempted to distract themselves, to meet others, to convince themselves that what they felt would fade if ignored. But every road led back to you. Every comparison reminded them of what no one else carried. Every attempt to forget only made them more certain that what they feel for you is rare. And that is when their voice may shake. Because admitting love is one thing. But admitting that no one else ever compared to you is another level of vulnerability entirely. It means revealing that you became their standard without permission. That your energy altered what their heart now recognizes as real. That after knowing your presence, everything else began to feel incomplete. Let that sink in. You were never just another person in their life. You became the quiet turning point they were not prepared for. The unexpected connection that changed what love meant to them. And when they finally tell you this, it will not sound rehearsed anymore. It will sound like truth breaking free after being trapped for far too long. But here is what makes this confession even deeper. They are not coming forward merely to reveal what they feel. They are coming forward because they are ready to ask something of you, something vulnerable, something sincere, something that could change the entire direction of where this connection goes next. And the question they are preparing to ask after their confession is the part they fear most. Because your answer to that question may define everything that happens between you from this moment forward. To be continued. And the question they fear most is not whether you will believe them. It is whether your heart has been waiting too. Because after they confess everything, after they tell you how long they have loved you, how deeply you have lived in their thoughts, how impossible it became to keep pretending, you will feel the room shift. The air itself will seem different. And then, in that fragile silence that follows truth, they will look at you with the kind of vulnerability few people ever allow themselves to show. And they will ask the question that has lived in their chest for longer than you know. They will ask if what they have felt has ever lived in you too. Not casually. Not lightly. But with their whole heart behind it. Because this has never been about simply getting it off their chest. This is not a confession made for closure. It is a confession made because they are hoping, quietly, desperately, that the connection they have carried alone was never truly one-sided. They are stepping toward you not just to reveal their heart, but to find out whether yours has been beating with the same hidden rhythm all along. And in that moment, something extraordinary happens. Every strange interaction between you begins to make sense. Every charged silence. Every look that lasted a little too long. Every moment where something felt unfinished between you. It all gathers into one undeniable truth: this connection was never imagined. It was building. Quietly. Patiently. Beneath the surface of everything. Don't skip now, because this is where emotion rises. They may tell you that the hardest part was not falling for you. The hardest part was pretending they had not. Pretending your presence did not affect them. Pretending your attention did not brighten their day. Pretending that seeing your name, hearing your voice, or feeling your energy did not alter their entire mood. They may admit that for a long time, they feared their feelings were inconvenient. Poorly timed, impossible, dangerous to the balance of what already existed between you. But love does not disappear simply because timing is complicated. And some hearts refuse to obey logic when they have found something real. That is why they are here now. Why the silence has broken. Why the truth is finally arriving. Because they no longer want almost. They no longer want uncertainty. They no longer want to wonder what might have happened if they had been brave enough to tell you. They want clarity. They want honesty. They want the chance to build something real with the person who changed their heart without even trying. And if your heart answers theirs, if you reveal that somewhere within you, these feelings have existed too, then what begins after that confession will be more powerful than either of you expected. Because this is not the end of a secret. It is the beginning of a new chapter neither of you could enter until the truth was spoken. But even then, one final revelation remains. Because there is something they have not yet told you, something about why this connection feels different from anything they have known before. Something deeper than attraction. Deeper than timing. Deeper even than love itself. And when they explain that part, you may finally understand why meeting them never felt ordinary. To be continued. Because when they finally explain why this connection feels different, their voice will soften in a way you have never heard before. Not from uncertainty, but from awe. As if they are trying to describe something that never fit into ordinary language. They will tell you that what they feel with you has never resembled the connections they knew before. It never felt forced. Never felt shallow. Never felt temporary. From the beginning, there was something about you that unsettled their defenses, not in fear, but in recognition. As though some part of them understood your importance before their mind could explain it. They may struggle to find the right words. They may pause. They may look away for a moment as if gathering courage for the final truth. And then they will admit it, the reason this frightened them so much was because no one had ever reached them like you did. No one had ever made them feel so seen while saying so little. No one had ever made ordinary moments feel charged with meaning. No one had ever made their heart feel both peaceful and restless at the same time. That is what made this impossible to ignore. It was never just attraction. It was never just chemistry. It was the strange, undeniable feeling that meeting you shifted something permanent inside them. That after knowing you, they could not return to the version of themselves that existed before. Because some people enter your life and simply pass through it. But others arrive and change the emotional architecture of your entire world. You were that person for them. Stay with this, because the deepest truth is still ahead. They will confess that for a long time they resisted this connection precisely because it felt too important. People fear what matters most. They delay what has the power to transform them. And the intensity of what they felt for you forced them to confront parts of themselves they had hidden for years. Their fear of vulnerability, their fear of being hurt, their fear of wanting something so deeply they could not control the outcome. Loving you required them to become honest with themselves in ways they never had before. That is why this confession is not only about romance. It is about transformation. They are not merely telling you they love you. They are telling you that loving you changed them. That your presence awakened a version of them they had not met before. Softer, braver, more open, more willing to risk everything for something real. And when someone tells you that your existence changed the way they experience life itself, that is no ordinary confession. That is a revelation. But then comes the part that may touch you most. Because after all of that, after every hidden feeling, every vulnerable admission, every truth they have kept locked away, they will tell you the one thing they have wanted to say from the very beginning. The sentence that carries the full weight of everything they have held inside. And when they finally speak those words, nothing between you will ever feel the same again. To be continued. And then, after every guarded layer has fallen away, after they have told you how long they loved you, how deeply you changed them, how impossible it became to remain silent, they will finally say the words their heart has been carrying all this time. They will tell you that loving you was never a choice they made, it was something that happened to them slowly, quietly, and then all at once. That somewhere between ordinary conversations and unnoticed moments, between glances and laughter and silence and distance, their heart chose you before they even realized what was happening. And once it did, there was no returning to who they were before. They will look at you with nothing left hidden and confess that no matter how hard they tried to bury it, no matter how much time passed, no matter how many times they convinced themselves to stay quiet, their feelings only became clearer, stronger, deeper, more certain. Because what they found in you was not fleeting emotion, it was the kind of connection that settles into the soul and refuses to leave. And then comes the sentence they have feared and dreamed of saying in equal measure. They will tell you that they do not simply love you. They believe they were always meant to find you. Not in some dramatic way. Not as fantasy. But in the quiet, powerful sense that some people arrive in your life and immediately feel unlike anyone else. Familiar. Significant. Unforgettable. As if their presence carries a strange emotional gravity your heart recognizes before your mind understands it. That is how you felt to them. Not random. Not ordinary. But deeply, undeniably important from the very beginning. Don't skip this moment, because what follows may stay with you forever. They will tell you that every part of them resisted saying this because they knew once spoken, these words could never be taken back. Yet silence had become its own kind of pain. Watching you, caring for you, wanting more while pretending less, it became unbearable. And so here they are, heart open, defenses gone, placing the truth before you without certainty of how it will be received, only knowing that you deserve to know. And if your eyes soften, if your silence holds emotion instead of shock, if your heart reveals even the slightest sign that it has carried something similar, then their entire world will change in that instant. Because the moment they realize they were not alone in this feeling. The moment they understand your heart may have been moving toward theirs all along, every fear they carried will dissolve into relief. The waiting will end. The wondering will stop. The tension between possibility and uncertainty will finally break. But even then, the story does not end with the confession. Because once two people stop hiding what they feel, reality begins. And what comes next is not merely romance. It is the unfolding of everything this connection was building toward from the start. The first conversation after the confession. The first moment alone where nothing remains unspoken. The first time both of you realize this is no longer a possibility, it is real. And in that next moment, one beautiful truth will become impossible to deny. This confession was never the climax of the story. It was only the doorway.